All right, welcome to this explainer on mastering Cisco router and switch commands. Today, we're totally skipping the dry theory and jumping straight into the good stuff. Practical, real-world execution. If you're out there configuring a device for a live network, you don't need a textbook, you need a playbook that works from minute one. And that's exactly what we're going to build together right now. So, here is our game plan for today. 1. EtherChannel Essentials. 2. Hardening your Cisco devices. 3. Navigating access control lists. 4. Configuring NAT step-by-step. And 5. The golden troubleshooting sequence. Let's dive in. Part 1. EtherChannel Essentials. We're kicking things off with Chapter 18 from our source material, which tackles a situation you will absolutely face in the real world. Picture this. Users are blowing up your phone complaining the network is crawling, and you realize your single uplink is completely bottlenecked. Mastering Chapter 18 is all about learning how to safely scale up that network capacity through port aggregation. Now, you might be thinking, hey, I'll just plug in another cable. But no way. Spanning tree protocol will just immediately block that new port to prevent a disastrous network loop. So, you need a coordinated approach.
And this brings us to EtherChannel. Think of EtherChannel literally like adding lanes to a highway. By bundling multiple physical links into one single logical link, you get a massive, linear increase in bandwidth, plus a built-in backup path. And the best part? Because the switch sees the whole bundle as just one logical connection, spanning tree protocol doesn't shut down your member ports. It is an incredibly elegant way to double or quadruple your throughput, basically instantly.
Now, in a real-world scenario, you want this bundle to form cleanly, right? To make this happen automatically, we use LACP. That's the industry-standard protocol that dynamically negotiates the port bundle for you. You just jump into the interface and type channel group, pick your ID, and hit it with mode active. That active keyword is absolutely crucial. It tells the switch to actively negotiate the connection with the switch on the other end. Once they agree, boom, your aggregated superlink is up and you get to be the office hero. But hold on a second. You've got the speed you need and your links are aggregated flawlessly. But before you even think about putting that device into production, how are you making sure the actual hardware is locked down from unauthorized access? Which brings us to Part 2, hardening your Cisco devices. If you're unboxing and staging a brand new device, you absolutely must follow these specific sequential steps in our Day 1 checklist. Step 1, set a privileged exact password using the enable secret command. Step 2, encrypt all your plaintext passwords by running service password encryption. Step 3, secure your physical console port with a password and set an EXEC timeout so idle sessions log out automatically. And only after all of that is done, only then do you move to Step 4, which is saving the configuration. Now, there is an absolute golden rule you need to memorize here. Why does that specific order matter so much? Because you must never save before you secure. Actually, scratch that. It's more like preventing an open backdoor. If you run copy run start before setting up your passwords, you're writing an unsecured configuration directly to the device's flash memory. If that device loses power and reboots, it comes back up completely wide open. Protect the device first, then save it. Part 3. Navigating access control lists. Okay, so we've got lightning-fast links and a rock-solid secure device. Next, we have to control who can actually traverse this newly secured network of ours. We do this using access control lists, or ACLs. Now, when you're building ACLs in the trenches, it is so easy to create a massive list of IP addresses that makes total sense to you today, but I guarantee you it will look like absolute gibberish in 6 months. For long-term maintainability, always use remark statements inside your named ACLs to document exactly what each entry is doing. Seriously, your future self is going to thank you. Applying an ACL is a strict 2-step process. First, you drop into the specific interface configuration, say interface gigabit Ethernet 0/1. Second, you apply the rule using a command like IP access group block telnet in. Getting that in or out direction right is absolutely critical. In this example, we're catching and filtering the traffic as it flows inbound into the router. Hit the nail on the head there, and you're golden. Moving to Part 4, configuring NAT step by step. All right, we're secure, we're filtering traffic, so let's get our internal private network talking to the public internet using network address translation. Specifically, we're looking at port address translation, or PAT. Cisco likes to call this NAT overload, and it is incredibly common. It allows all the hosts on an internal subnet, literally every single computer in a small office, to share just one single public IP address. It works like magic by dynamically mapping internal IPs to unique ports on that one outside address. So how do we configure this step by step? First, you create an ACL that matches your internal LAN subnet. Second, you tie that ACL to your WAN interface using the IPNet inside sourceless command. And you absolutely must slap the word overload at the very end of that command. Finally, steps 3 and 4, you have to explicitly tag your interfaces. Go to your LAN interface and tag it IPNet inside. Then go to your WAN interface and tag it IPNet outside. If you forget those interface tags, well, the whole shebang just fails to translate.
Finally, part 5, the golden troubleshooting sequence. Listen, even with a flawless setup, things inevitably break. It's just the real world. And that brings us to our final and most critical phase, troubleshooting. If a user loses connectivity, don't panic. Immediately check your interface statuses using Show IP Interface Brief. If you spot an interface showing a down-down status, you have instantly isolated a physical layer problem. It's almost for sure a bad cable, an unplugged port, or a completely dead switch on the other side.
In fact, I want you to make this your golden troubleshooting sequence. Anytime you log into an unknown Cisco device, run these 3 commands in this exact order. First, show version to check the device uptime and see why it reloaded last. Second, show IP interface brief to scan those interface states. And third, show IP route to inspect the routing table and confirm the device actually knows how to send traffic to its destination. Just keep in mind, you can only run these deep, powerful diagnostic commands when you escalate your permissions. When you log in, you start in user exec mode, which you can spot by that greater than prompt, that is highly limited read-only access. You've got to type enable and enter your password to escalate into privileged exec mode. That's the hashtag or pound prompt, and that's what gives you full diagnostic control of the device. To tie all of this together, keep these 4 core operational principles in your back pocket. Number 1, master those big 3 show commands we just talked about. Number 2, always save your work with copy run start. Number 3, use debug commands with extreme care. Always use ACL filters in production so you don't accidentally crash the CPU. And 4, document absolutely everything, from interface descriptions to ACL remarks.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a real-world scenario to chew on. Let's say you make a configuration change, hit enter, and immediately lose all connection to your router. Are you safe because you didn't save yet and a quick reboot will fix it? Or did you just cause a persistent system-wide outage because you ran copy run start too early? Implementing strict step-by-step safeguards is exactly what separates a novice from a true professional. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into Cisco configurations, and keep on learning.